The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Maple Street in the quiet suburb of Dearborn, Michigan. It was the kind of peaceful Tuesday that made residents feel grateful they'd escaped the chaos of Detroit proper. Children would be getting out of school soon, and Sarah Richardson was running exactly on schedule, picking up groceries before collecting her daughter from daycare. Sarah hummed along to the radio as she approached the intersection of Maple and Oak, her green Honda Civic rolling to a gentle stop at the red light. In the back seat, 3-year-old Emma sat in her car seat, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, and watching the world go by with the fascinated attention that only toddlers possess. "Mommy, look, big truck!" Emma pointed excitedly at a delivery vehicle passing in the opposite direction. "I see it, sweetie," Sarah smiled into the rearview mirror, her heart swelling with that particular love only mothers know. Emma had her father's bright blue eyes and Sarah's stubborn streak. "We're almost done with errands and then we'll get you some juice." The light turned green. Sarah checked both ways, a habit ingrained from her own mother's cautious teaching, and began to move forward into the intersection. The old Taylor Swift song on the radio reached its chorus. Emma started singing along, getting most of the words adorably wrong. Then everything exploded into chaos. The sound came first, a horrifying screech of tires that seemed to tear through the peaceful afternoon like a demon's scream. Sarah's head whipped right, and her blood turned to ice. A red Mercedes-Benz was barreling through the intersection at impossible speed, and there was no time to react, no time to think, no time to do anything except gasp. The impact was devastating. Metal crumpled with a sickening crunch. The Merced slammed into the driver's side of Sarah's Civic with the force of a small bomb. The airbags deployed with explosive pops. Glass shattered into thousands of crystalline fragments that filled the air like deadly snow. Sarah's world spun violently, sky, ground, as the car rotated from the impact's force. Emma's scream pierced through the chaos, high, terrified, primal. "Mommy!" The car finally stopped spinning, coming to rest at a grotesque angle in the middle of the intersection. The radio had gone silent, replaced by the hissing of the radiator and the ticking of cooling metal. Sarah's head throbbed and warm blood trickled down her temple. Her left arm screamed in pain, but none of that mattered. "Emma, baby, are you okay?" Sarah twisted in her seat, ignoring the stabbing pain in her ribs. Her hands fumbled with the seatbelt buckle, desperate to reach her daughter. Emma was crying, loud, healthy crying that was the most beautiful sound Sarah had ever heard. The car seat had done its job. Aside from being terrified and surrounded by broken glass, Emma appeared uninjured. Her daughter's face was red with tears, but she was alive, conscious, moving. "Mommy, scary, big scary," Emma sobbed, still clutching Mr. Whiskers in a death grip. "I know, baby, I know. Mommy's here, you're okay, you're okay." Sarah's voice cracked as relief and shock flooded through her system simultaneously. Outside, people were running toward the wreckage. A woman in a business suit yanked open Sarah's door. "Don't move, the ambulance is coming. Are you hurt?" "My daughter, please check my daughter," Sarah begged. A middle-aged man appeared at the back door, carefully opening it to examine Emma. "She looks okay, ma'am. Car seat saved her life. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emma," the little girl hiccuped through her tears. "Want mommy." "Your mommy's right here. You're being so brave." More voices joined the chaos. Someone was shouting into a phone. "Yes, major accident, Maple and Oak. 2 vehicles, possible serious injuries." Another voice, shaky and scared. "Oh God, the other driver, he's not moving. There's blood everywhere." Sarah's head was spinning. Through her cracked windshield, she could see the red Mercedes crumpled against a light pole. The entire front end was destroyed. Steam rose from the mangled hood. The driver's side airbag had deployed, but even from this distance, Sarah could see the man slumped over the steering wheel, unnaturally still. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "Mommy, the red car didn't stop," Emma said suddenly, her voice small but clear. The crying had reduced to occasional hiccups. "He had the red light, Mommy. He had the red light." Sarah barely registered the words, too focused on making sure Emma was truly uninjured. "It's okay, sweetheart. Don't think about it." "But Mommy, he didn't stop. Red means stop. You teached me. Red means stop." Emma's little voice carried that insistent tone of a toddler who knew she was right. A police officer arrived, crouching beside Sarah's door. "Ma'am, can you tell me what happened?" Sarah's voice shook. "I had the green light. I checked both ways and started through the intersection. Then that car came out of nowhere and hit me. I didn't have time to." "The red car went on red," Emma announced from the backseat, still upset. "He was supposed to stop." The officer glanced at Emma briefly, offering a sympathetic smile, then turned back to Sarah. "We'll sort this all out, ma'am. Right now, let's get you both checked out." The ambulance arrived, along with fire trucks and more police vehicles. EMTs carefully extracted Sarah and Emma from the wreckage, placing them on gurneys despite their protests. As they loaded Sarah into the ambulance, she watched them working frantically on the other driver, the man from the red Mercedes. She didn't know his name yet. She didn't know he was Thomas Bennett, a wealthy businessman with a reputation for aggressive driving. She didn't know that he would wake up in the hospital and lie about what happened. And she definitely didn't know that her 3-year-old daughter's words, dismissed by everyone that day as the confused observations of a traumatized child, would eventually become the most important testimony in a case that would captivate the entire nation. All Sarah knew was that her daughter was alive, and for now, that was enough. But this was only the beginning of their nightmare. 2 weeks after the accident, Sarah Richardson stood in her kitchen, staring at the certified letter in her trembling hands. The return address read, "Chen and Associates, Attorneys at Law." Her heart hammered against her ribs as she tore open the envelope. Paper cuts be damned. The words swam before her eyes. Notice of lawsuit. Thomas Bennett versus Sarah Richardson. $847,000 in damages. The letter slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor. $847,000. Sarah's legs gave out and she sank into a kitchen chair, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The number was impossible, astronomical, life-destroying. She made $38,000 a year as a school administrative assistant. Her mortgage was already tight. Her car, what was left of it, had been totaled. And now this. "Mommy's sad." Emma appeared in the doorway, dragging Mr. Whiskers behind her. The stuffed rabbit had been washed 3 times since the accident, but Emma refused to let it out of her sight. Sarah forced a smile, quickly wiping the tears from her cheeks. "No, baby, Mommy's fine. Are you hungry? Want some crackers?" But Emma was too perceptive, even at 3. She climbed into Sarah's lap, her small arms wrapping around her mother's neck. "Don't cry, Mommy. The red car was bad, not you." Sarah held her daughter tight, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, and let herself cry quietly for just a moment. Emma was right. The red car had been bad. Sarah had done nothing wrong. She'd had the green light. She'd checked the intersection. The accident wasn't her fault. So why was she being sued? That evening, after putting Emma to bed, Sarah sat at her computer and Googled Thomas Bennett. Her stomach churned as the search results loaded. Thomas Bennett, CEO of Bennett Tech Solutions. Net worth estimated at $12 million. Photos showed a handsome man in his 50s with silver hair and an arrogant smile, always wearing expensive suits, often pictured with luxury cars. One article called him Michigan's most aggressive entrepreneur. Another detailed his collection of high-performance vehicles. Sarah clicked on a news article about the accident. Tech CEO seriously injured in collision. According to the report, Bennett had suffered a severe concussion, 3 broken ribs, a fractured collarbone, and significant lacerations. He'd spent 4 days in the ICU. The article quoted his attorney, Robert Chen, saying, "Mr. Bennett's life has been forever altered by this preventable tragedy. The other driver's reckless actions nearly killed him." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Reckless actions. She'd had the green light. But then she saw the problem. The article continued. Police reports indicate the traffic signal camera at the intersection was non-functional at the time of the accident, making it impossible to verify which driver had the right of way. The investigation is ongoing. No camera footage. No independent witnesses who'd seen the light, just her word against his. And he had unlimited money for lawyers. The next morning, Sarah met with her insurance company's adjuster, a tired-looking woman named Patricia who delivered the news Sarah had been dreading. "Your policy covers up to $100,000 in liability," Patricia explained, her voice sympathetic but firm. "If the lawsuit proceeds and you lose, you'll be personally responsible for the remaining $747,000. Sarah felt the room spin. "But I didn't do anything wrong. I had the green light." "I believe you, Mrs. Richardson, but without evidence." Patricia trailed off, her expression apologetic. "We'll provide you with legal representation, of course, but I have to be honest with you, these cases are difficult, without the traffic camera or witnesses." "There was a witness," Sarah said desperately. "My daughter, she saw everything." Patricia's eyebrows rose. "Your daughter, how old is she?" 3. The silence that followed was deafening. "Mrs. Richardson," Patricia finally said, choosing her words carefully, "I understand you're in a difficult position, but no court in the country will allow a 3-year-old to testify. Children that young aren't considered competent witnesses. Their memories are unreliable, they can be easily influenced, and they don't understand the concept of truth versus imagination." "But Emma knows what happened. She keeps telling me about it. Every detail is the same every time." Patricia shook her head sadly. "I'm sorry. That's not going to help your case. My advice is to settle. We can offer the $100,000 from your policy and perhaps negotiate a payment plan for." "A payment plan for $750,000, Sarah's voice cracked. "On my salary, I'd be paying until Emma graduates college. This will destroy our lives." "I'm truly sorry," Patricia repeated, standing to leave. "I'll have our attorney, Lisa Martinez, contact you. She's good. If anyone can help you, it's her." After Patricia left, Sarah sat alone in the insurance office's waiting room, her head in her hands. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A clock ticked loudly on the wall. Her phone buzzed with a text from the daycare. "Emma had a great day. She drew you a picture of a rainbow." A rainbow. Her sweet, innocent daughter drawing rainbows while Sarah's world collapsed around them. That night Sarah tucked Emma into bed, reading her favorite story about a brave little mouse. When she finished, Emma looked up at her with those big blue eyes. "Mommy, why don't people believe me about the red car?" Sarah's heart broke a little more. "What do you mean, sweetie?" "The policeman didn't listen. The nice lady with the Band-Aid didn't listen. Nobody listens when I say the red car went on red." Emma's lower lip trembled. "I'm telling the truth, Mommy. You always say tell the truth." "I know you are, baby, I know." Sarah kissed her forehead. "Sometimes grown-ups are silly. They forget that kids can see things too." "I saw everything," Emma insisted, her voice getting sleepy. "The red car was going fast. The man was looking at his phone thingy, not the road. He had the red light, but he didn't stop. Red means stop. Even I know that." Sarah froze. "Emma, what did you say about a phone?" But Emma's eyes were already closing, her breathing evening out into sleep. A phone. Emma had never mentioned that before. Sarah's mind raced. Could a 3-year-old really have seen the other driver on his phone? Could she be that observant? Or was it just a child's imagination, filling in details that seemed to make sense? Sarah stood in Emma's doorway long after her daughter fell asleep, watching the gentle rise and fall of her tiny chest, listening to her soft breathing. 1 week from now, Sarah would meet Lisa Martinez, the court-appointed attorney who would either save them or fail them. 2 weeks from now, she would meet Dr. James Morrison, the child psychologist who would change everything. But tonight, Sarah made a decision. If no one else would believe her daughter, she would. She'd find a way to make them listen. Because Emma was telling the truth. And somehow, someway, Sarah would prove it. Lisa Martinez's office was nothing like the polished, expensive spaces Sarah had seen in legal dramas on TV. Located in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, the small suite smelled faintly of coffee and desperation. The furniture was mismatched, the carpet was worn, and the walls were covered with framed degrees and certificates that seemed to apologize for the humble surroundings. But Lisa's eyes, sharp, intelligent, and kind, gave Sarah her first glimmer of hope in weeks. "Mrs. Richardson," Lisa said, gesturing to a chair across from her cluttered desk, "I've reviewed your case and I'll be straight with you. This is going to be an uphill battle." Sarah's heart sank, but she'd expected as much, because there's no camera footage. Exactly, and because Thomas Bennett has Robert Chen representing him. Lisa leaned back in her chair, tapping a pen against her desk. Chen is one of the most expensive personal injury attorneys in Michigan. He doesn't take cases unless he's confident he'll win, which means he believes his client. But his client is lying. Sarah's voice rose despite herself. "I had the green light my daughter saw." "Your 3-year-old daughter." Lisa's interruption was gentle but firm. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. Children under the age of 5 are almost never allowed to testify in court. The legal system doesn't consider them competent witnesses. Their memories are deemed unreliable. They don't fully understand the difference between reality and imagination, and—" "Emma knows the difference," Sarah insisted, leaning forward. "She's been telling me the same story since the day of the accident. Every detail is identical. She even mentioned something new last night. She said the other driver was looking at his phone." Lisa's pen stopped tapping. "His phone?" "Yes, she said he was looking at his phone thingy instead of the road." For a long moment, Lisa said nothing, her lawyer's mind clearly working through possibilities. Then she shook her head. "Even if that's true, even if she really saw that, we can't use it. No judge will allow a toddler to testify. I'm sorry, but—" "Then what am I supposed to do?" Sarah's voice cracked, tears threatening to spill. "Lose everything. Spend the rest of my life paying off a debt because some rich man lied about running a red light. My daughter will grow up watching her mother struggle because I can't prove the truth." Lisa's expression softened. She stood, walked around her desk, and sat in the chair next to Sarah, a move that felt more human than professional. "There might be something," Lisa said slowly, as if thinking out loud. "It's a long shot, a really long shot, but there's a child psychologist I know, Dr. James Morrison. He specializes in forensic interviews with young children, usually in abuse cases. He's testified in court dozens of times about the reliability of children's memories." Sarah wiped her eyes. "You think he could help?" "I think he could evaluate Emma and determine if her memory is genuinely reliable or if she's just repeating things she's heard you say. If, and this is a huge if, he determines that her memory is solid and consistent, we might be able to petition the court to allow her testimony." Lisa held up a hand, stopping Sarah's surge of hope. "But I need you to understand, even with his evaluation, the chances of a judge allowing this are slim to none. I've never even heard of a witness this young being permitted to testify in a civil case." "But there's a chance." Lisa hesitated, then nodded. "A very small one." "Then let's take it," Sarah said firmly. "What do we have to lose?" Dr. James Morrison's office was the complete opposite of Lisa Martinez's, expensive, modern, and designed to put children at ease. The waiting room featured colorful murals of cartoon animals, a play area with toys, and soft music playing in the background. Emma's eyes went wide with delight when she spotted the toy kitchen set in the corner. "Can I play, Mommy?" she asked, already tugging on Sarah's hand. "In just a minute, sweetie. First, you're going to meet a nice man who wants to talk to you." Dr. Morrison emerged from his office, a tall, gentle-looking man in his 50s with graying hair and a warm smile. He crouched down to Emma's level, something Sarah immediately appreciated. "Hi there, you must be Emma. I'm Dr. Jim. I like your rabbit. What's his name?" Emma hugged Mr. Whiskers closer. "Mr. Whiskers." "That's a great name. Emma, would you like to come play some games with me? I have toys in my room." Emma looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "It's okay, baby. I'll be right here." Sarah watched through a one-way mirror as Dr. Morrison worked with Emma. Lisa had explained that this was standard procedure. The parent could observe, but the child needed to respond without any influence. For the first 20 minutes, Dr. Morrison simply played with Emma, building rapport. They colored together, played with dolls, and built a tower out of blocks. Emma gradually relaxed, her natural chattiness emerging. Then casually, Dr. Morrison brought out toy cars and a small play traffic light. "Emma, do you like cars?" he asked. "My mommy has a green car," Emma replied, lining up the toy vehicles. "But it got all broken." "Oh no, how did it get broken?" "The crash." Emma's voice got quieter. "The red car crashed it." "That sounds scary. Can you show me what happened with these toys?" Sarah held her breath as Emma, without any prompting, recreated the entire accident. She positioned the toy traffic light, placed a green car at the intersection, and had it start moving forward. Then she grabbed a red car and sent it zooming through, crashing into the green one. "Boom, big crash," Emma said. "See? The green car had green light, green means go, but the red car went on red. Red means stop, but he didn't stop." Dr. Morrison made notes on his clipboard. "You're very good at remembering things, Emma. Do you remember anything else about the red car?" Emma nodded vigorously. "It was really shiny and really big, bigger than Mommy's car." She paused, concentrating, and it made a loud zoomy sound like R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R. She made an engine sound, her small face screwed up in concentration. "That's very good. Do you remember seeing the driver?" He was a man. He had gray hair like Grandpa, and he was looking down at his phone, not at the road." Emma demonstrated, tilting her head down and pretending to hold something in her hands. The phone had a bright light on his face. "My daddy's phone does that too in the car, but Daddy watches the road. The man didn't watch the road." Sarah's hands were pressed against the glass, her heart pounding. It was exactly what Emma had told her, with even more detail. Dr. Morrison spent another hour with Emma, asking questions in different ways, occasionally trying to suggest different scenarios to see if Emma would change her story. She didn't. Every time, the account remained consistent. Green light, green car goes, red car runs the red light, driver looking at phone. Finally, Dr. Morrison brought Emma back to the waiting room, giving her a sticker and a lollipop. "You did great, Emma. Thank you for talking with me." After Emma was settled in the play area with her treat, Dr. Morrison pulled Sarah and Lisa aside, his expression grave but intrigued. "I need to review my notes and conduct a few more sessions," he said quietly. "But I have to tell you, I've been doing this for 23 years, and I've never encountered a child this young with this level of detailed, consistent recall. Her memory of the event is remarkably clear and specific. She doesn't waver, she doesn't change details, and she resists suggestion." "So you believe her?" Sarah asked, hardly daring to hope. Dr. Morrison chose his words carefully. "I believe she's reporting what she genuinely remembers. Whether a court will accept that is another matter entirely. But yes, Mrs. Richardson, I believe your daughter is telling the truth." Lisa and Sarah exchanged glances. It was the first real break in their case. "Dr. Morrison," Lisa said, "would you be willing to testify about Emma's reliability as a witness?" He looked through the window at Emma, who was now making Mr. Whiskers drive, a toy car around the play area, providing sound effects and carefully stopping at her imaginary red lights. "Yes," he said finally, "I would, but I should warn you what you're attempting to do is unprecedented. You're going to face tremendous opposition." "I know," Lisa replied, her jaw set with determination, "but we don't have any other choice." Sarah looked at her daughter, her brave, honest little girl who just wanted people to believe her. "Then we fight," Sarah said quietly, "whatever it takes." The impossible battle was just beginning. The courtroom was packed the morning Lisa Martinez filed her motion. Word had leaked somehow, probably from the court clerk's office, and local reporters filled the back rows, their cameras ready, notebooks open. This wasn't supposed to be a media circus. It was supposed to be a simple preliminary hearing. But the moment Lisa stood and announced her intention to petition for a 3-year-old witness to testify, the room erupted. Judge Patricia Williams banged her gavel sharply, her stern face showing genuine shock. "Counselor, did you just say 3 years old?" "Yes, Your Honor." Lisa's voice was steady despite the murmuring crowd. "My client's daughter, Emma Richardson, was the only witness to the accident in question. Dr. James Morrison, a renowned forensic child psychologist, has evaluated her extensively and determined that her memory of the event is remarkably detailed, consistent, and reliable." Robert Chen shot to his feet, his expensive suit moving with him like armor. At 62, he was a legend in Michigan's legal circles, a shark who never lost, a man who could smell weakness and exploit it without mercy. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his expression a mixture of disbelief and contempt. "Your Honor, this is absurd," Chen's voice boomed across the courtroom. "The defense is so desperate that they're willing to parade a toddler, a child who still believes in Santa Claus, into a court of law. This is a mockery of our justice system." "Mr. Chen, I didn't recognize you," Judge Williams said sharply. "Sit down." But Chen wasn't finished. "Your Honor, I must strenuously object to this motion before it goes any further. A 3-year-old cannot understand the oath to tell the truth. A 3-year-old cannot distinguish between reality and fantasy. A 3-year-old's testimony would be worthless at best and prejudicial at worst. The jury will be swayed by a cute child rather than facts." Lisa stepped forward. "Your Honor, if I may, Dr. Morrison's evaluation is comprehensive. Over 6 sessions spanning 3 weeks, Emma Richardson has demonstrated extraordinary consistency in her recollection. She can identify her favorite cartoon character," Chen interrupted, ignoring judicial protocol. "Your Honor, in my 35 years practicing law, I have never heard of anything so preposterous. There's a reason children this young aren't allowed to testify. Their brains aren't developed enough to form reliable memories. Any first-year psychology student knows this." Judge Williams raised her hand, silencing both attorneys. Her face was unreadable, a mask of judicial neutrality that had been perfected over 3 decades on the bench. She'd seen attempted murders, corporate fraud, bitter divorces, and custody battles that would make grown men weep. But this was entirely new territory. "Ms. Martinez, Mr. Chen, in my chambers. Now, everyone else were in recess." The media explosion was immediate and merciless. By that evening, every local news station led with the story. "3-year-old may take stand in major lawsuit," the headlines screamed. CNN picked it up within hours. By the next morning, it had gone national. "Trial of the toddler. Michigan case tests legal boundaries," read the New York Times headline. Sarah's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters camped outside her modest home, their cameras tracking her every move. She had to take Emma out the back door just to get to daycare without being photographed. The daycare director called, apologetic but firm. The media attention was disrupting the other children. Could Sarah keep Emma home for a while? On cable news, legal experts debated the case with passionate intensity. This sets a dangerous precedent, argued a Harvard law professor on CNN. If we allow a 3-year-old to testify, where does it draw the line? 2-year-olds, infants. The legal system has age restrictions for a reason. But if the child genuinely witnessed the event and can articulate what happened, doesn't justice demand we listen? Countered a defense attorney from Chicago. We're so busy protecting the system that we're ignoring the possibility that this child is telling the truth. Child advocacy groups issued statements expressing concern. Children Against Exploitation released a press release. While we sympathize with Ms. Richardson's situation, subjecting a 3-year-old to the trauma of courtroom testimony is unconscionable. The psychological impact could be devastating and long-lasting. The American Psychological Association remained neutral, but noted that, while young children can form accurate memories of significant events, the reliability varies greatly by individual and circumstance. Social media caught fire. Trial of the toddler trended on Twitter for 3 days straight. People took sides with passionate certainty. Let the baby speak. Kids know more than adults think. This is child abuse disguised as justice. If she saw it, she saw it. Truth is truth regardless of age. That poor child is being exploited by her mother to avoid responsibility. Sarah read the comments late at night, tears streaming down her face, wondering if she was doing the right thing. Was she traumatizing Emma? Was she being selfish? But then she'd remember the lawsuit, the impossible debt, the life of poverty that awaited them if she lost. What choice did she have? Meanwhile, Dr. Morrison continued his work with Emma, now under intense scrutiny. Bennett's legal team hired their own child psychologist, Dr. Rebecca Hoffman, to evaluate Emma and hopefully discredit Dr. Morrison's findings. Dr. Hoffman spent 2 full days with Emma, employing every technique in her considerable arsenal to trip up the little girl, to find inconsistencies, to prove that her memory was unreliable or coached. She asked the same questions in different ways. She tried to suggest alternative scenarios. She introduced misleading information to see if Emma would accept it. Emma never wavered. The red car went on red, she repeated for what must have been the 100th time, with the patient exasperation of a child explaining something obvious to a particularly slow adult. Red means stop. He didn't stop. That's breaking the rule. When Dr. Hoffman tried to suggest that maybe Emma's car had the red light, Emma shook her head firmly. No, we had green. I know green. Green is go. We were going. But maybe you remember it wrong, Dr. Hoffman suggested gently. Emma's 3-year-old face said in stubborn lines, I don't remember it wrong. I remember it right. Why don't grown-ups believe me? It was a question that haunted everyone involved in the case. After her evaluation, Dr. Hoffman did something that shocked Robert Chen and his entire legal team. She requested a private meeting with Lisa Martinez and Dr. Morrison. In Lisa's shabby office, the renowned psychologist delivered her verdict. I came here to disprove your case, Dr. Hoffman said quietly, her professional composure showing cracks of genuine emotion. Mr. Chen is paying me a substantial fee to testify that Emma's testimony should be excluded, but I can't do it. I won't perjure myself, even for that kind of money. Lisa's eyes widened. You're saying? I'm saying that child's memory is genuine. She's not coached. She's not confused. She's not fantasizing. What she's describing shows a level of detail and consistency that I've rarely seen in witnesses of any age. Dr. Hoffman stood, gathering her briefcase. I've submitted my report to Mr. Chen. He's going to be furious, but Emma Richardson is telling the truth and I won't say otherwise. The next day, Dr. Hoffman withdrew from the case. Robert Chen, backed into a corner, came out swinging even harder. He filed motion after motion to exclude Emma's testimony, citing case law, child development studies, and appeals to common sense. He gave interviews to every news outlet that would listen. This is a travesty, he told Fox News. A desperate mother is using her innocent child as a pawn to escape the consequences of her reckless driving. That little girl has been brainwashed into believing a false narrative. It's tragic, really. Sarah watched the interview from her couch, Emma asleep beside her, and felt rage burn in her chest. How dare he call her daughter a liar? How dare he suggest she'd manipulated Emma? But the court of public opinion was divided, and the legal battle had only just begun. Judge Patricia Williams hadn't made her decision yet. And the entire nation was watching, waiting to see if a 3-year-old girl would get her day in court. 3 weeks before the trial, Lisa Martinez sat on the floor of her office surrounded by stuffed animals, toy cars, and a miniature traffic light she'd bought from a toy store. She felt ridiculous, a 42-year-old attorney playing pretend. But this was Emma Richardson's future riding on her ability to ask questions a 3-year-old could understand and answer. "Okay, let's try this again," Lisa muttered to herself, arranging the toys for the 15th time that morning. "Emma, can you show me what you saw that day?" Too leading. "Emma, what happened at the intersection?" Too vague. "Emma, tell me about the cars." Better, but still not perfect. Dr. Morrison had given her a thick binder filled with techniques for interviewing young children. The golden rule: never put words in the child's mouth. Let her tell the story in her own way, with her own words. Don't suggest answers. Don't fill in blanks. Don't show frustration when she gets distracted or starts talking about something completely unrelated. "This is impossible," Lisa said aloud to her empty office. "Nothing's impossible, just really, really hard." Lisa looked up to find Dr. Morrison standing in her doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one and sat down on the floor beside her, his expensive slacks be damned. "You're overthinking it," he said gently. "Emma doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be patient and kind. The story will come out if you give her space to tell it." "But what if I mess up in court? What if I ask the wrong question and she gets confused? Chen will destroy her credibility in seconds." "Then we practice, every day, until you can do this in your sleep." Dr. Morrison picked up the toy traffic light. "Remember, Emma's been consistent for weeks now. The story is solid in her mind. Your job isn't to extract new information, it's to let her share what she already knows." Over the next week, they practiced relentlessly. Lisa would ask questions while Dr. Morrison observed, offering feedback. "Too complicated, simplify." "Good, but give her more time to think." "Don't nod when she answers, it might influence her next response." Slowly, painfully, Lisa learned to speak Emma's language. At home, Sarah Richardson was falling apart. Every night she lay awake staring at the ceiling, wrestling with suffocating guilt. Was she doing the right thing? Emma seemed fine during the practice sessions. She treated them like games, happily playing with the toy cars and answering questions. But what about when she walked into a real courtroom filled with strangers? What about when Robert Chen cross-examined her? What about the nightmares that might follow? "I'm a terrible mother," Sarah whispered to her sister Michelle during a late-night phone call. "What kind of person puts their 3-year-old through this?" "The kind who's fighting for her child's future," Michelle replied firmly. "Sarah, if you lose this case, Emma grows up in poverty, watching you struggle to pay off an impossible debt. That's traumatic too. You're doing what you have to do." "But what if it breaks her?" "Have you asked Emma how she feels?" Sarah hadn't. She'd been so consumed by her own guilt that she hadn't actually talked to her daughter about it. That night, after reading bedtime stories, Sarah broached the subject carefully. "Emma, sweetie, you know we've been practicing talking about the car crash." Emma nodded, hugging Mr. Whiskers. "With Miss Lisa and Dr. Jim, it's fun. I like the toy cars." "Well, soon we're going to go to a special room called a courtroom. There will be lots of people there, and they're going to want to hear your story about what happened that day." Emma's blue eyes were solemn. "Will they believe me this time?" The question pierced Sarah's heart. "I think so, baby, I hope so." Good, because I'm telling the truth, Mommy. The red car went on red, that's what happened. Emma's voice carried absolute certainty, the unshakable confidence of a child who knew what she'd seen. I want to tell them. I want them to know you didn't do the bad thing. The other man did. Sarah pulled her daughter close, tears sliding down her cheeks. You're so brave, Emma, so brave. I'm not scared, Emma declared, though her grip on Mr. Whiskers tightened. Well, maybe a little scared. Can Mr. Whiskers come with me? Absolutely. Mr. Whiskers can definitely come. Meanwhile, Robert Chen's war room was in full operation. His team had assembled every piece of ammunition they could find to destroy Emma's credibility. They'd hired 3 additional child psychologists who'd written reports, without ever meeting Emma, explaining why 3-year-old testimony was inherently unreliable. They'd compiled hundreds of studies on false memories in children. They'd prepared cross-examination questions designed to confuse and contradict. We don't need to prove she's lying, Chen told his associates during a strategy meeting. We just need to prove she could be wrong. Reasonable doubt. That's all we need. His junior partner, a young attorney named David Park, shifted uncomfortably. Sir, what if she's actually right? What if Bennett was on his phone? Chen's eyes turned cold. Our client has been clear about what happened. The Richardson woman ran the red light. End of story. Our job isn't to question our client, it's to win this case. Are you unclear on that concept, David? David Park said nothing, but his doubts remained. He'd watched the video of Emma's evaluation sessions that the defense had been provided during discovery. The little girl's consistency was remarkable, troubling even. But he kept his mouth shut. Chen didn't tolerate dissent. 4 days before trial, Judge Patricia Williams made her decision. She called both attorneys to her chambers, her expression revealing nothing. I've reviewed all the materials, consulted with experts, and spent considerable time thinking about this unprecedented situation, she began, her hands folded on her desk. What you're asking me to do, Ms. Martinez, has never been done in this state, possibly in this country. Allowing a 3-year-old witness to testify goes against established legal norms and decades of case law. Lisa's heart sank. They'd lost before they'd even begun. However, Judge Williams continued, and Lisa's head snapped up, I've also reviewed Dr. Morrison's evaluation and Dr. Hoffman's independent assessment. Both experts agree that this particular child demonstrates exceptional memory retention and consistency. I've watched the video recordings myself. Emma Richardson appears to be a uniquely reliable witness despite her age. Robert Chen started to object, but Judge Williams silenced him with a look. Therefore, I'm going to allow Emma Richardson to testify under the following strict conditions. First, the courtroom will be closed to all media and spectators except immediate family. Second, Emma may take breaks whenever needed. Third, a child advocate will be present at all times. Fourth, any attorney who attempts to bully, intimidate, or confuse this child will face sanctions. And fifth, she looked directly at Chen, cross-examination will be limited and closely monitored. Do I make myself clear? Your Honor, I must protest, Chen began. Your protest is noted and overruled. This trial begins in 4 days. I suggest you both prepare accordingly. Outside the courthouse, Lisa called Sarah with the news. We got it. Emma can testify. Sarah's response was a choked sob, relief and terror mixed together. Oh God, this is really happening. This is really happening, Lisa confirmed. Sarah, we need Emma at the office tomorrow for final preparation. Can you do that? Yes, we'll be there. That night, Sarah helped Emma pick out a dress for court. Something simple and comfortable, blue like the sky. Emma insisted on bringing Mr. Whiskers, and Sarah didn't have the heart to say no. Mommy, will the judge be nice? Emma asked as Sarah brushed her hair. Very nice, sweetie. Her name is Judge Williams, and she wants to hear what you have to say. And then everyone will know the truth. Yes, baby, Then everyone will know the truth." Emma smiled, satisfied. "Good. I don't like when people don't believe me." As Sarah tucked her daughter into bed that night, she whispered a prayer she hadn't said since childhood. "Please, God, let this be the right choice. Please protect my baby girl." In 4 days, the entire nation would watch as the impossible happened. A 3-year-old was going to take the stand. The morning of Emma's testimony, Sarah Richardson threw up twice before leaving the house. Her hands shook as she helped Emma into her blue dress, the one they'd picked out together, the one Emma said made her feel like a princess. Sarah had barely slept, her mind cycling through every possible disaster. What if Emma froze? What if she started crying? What if Robert Chen destroyed her on cross-examination? What if this entire gamble ruined her daughter's life? "Mommy, you're pulling my hair too tight," Emma said, wincing as Sarah attempted a ponytail with trembling fingers. "Sorry, baby, sorry." Sarah forced herself to breathe to steady her hands. Emma was counting on her to be strong. Emma clutched Mr. Whiskers to her chest, studying her mother's face with those too perceptive blue eyes. "Mommy, are you scared?" Sarah knelt down, taking her daughter's small hands in hers. "A little bit, sweetie, but you know what? I'm also very proud of you. You're the bravest person I know." "Braver than Captain America," Emma's eyes widened. "Way braver than Captain America." Emma considered this, then nodded solemnly. "Okay, I can be brave. Mr. Whiskers will help me." The courthouse was under siege. Despite Judge Williams's order closing the courtroom to media, reporters packed the steps and surrounding sidewalks, their cameras tracking every arrival. Satellite trucks lined the streets. Helicopters circled overhead. The trial of the toddler had become the biggest story in America. Lisa Martinez met Sarah and Emma at a side entrance, away from the cameras. "You ready?" she asked, though her own face betrayed her nerves. "No," Sarah answered honestly, "but we're doing this anyway." They walked through empty corridors, their footsteps echoing off marble floors. With each step, Sarah felt the weight of what they were about to do pressing down on her chest. They were making history, but at what cost? The courtroom was smaller than Sarah expected, more intimate. The jury box sat empty. This was still the preliminary hearing where Judge Williams would determine if Emma's testimony was admissible for the actual trial. Thomas Bennett sat at the defense table in an expensive navy suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, his face a mask of barely concealed contempt. Robert Chen whispered something to him, and Bennett smirked. That smirk made Sarah's blood boil. Judge Williams emerged from her chambers, her black robes flowing behind her like wings. She was a formidable woman in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back severely and eyes that missed nothing. But when she looked at Emma, her expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Good morning, everyone. Please be seated." Judge Williams's voice carried natural authority. "Before we begin, I want to remind everyone present that this is an extraordinary circumstance. We will proceed with the utmost care and respect." The bailiff called the court to order and Lisa stood. "Your Honor, the defense calls Emma Richardson." The courtroom door opened, and Sarah led Emma inside. The little girl looked impossibly small walking down the aisle, her blue dress swishing around her knees, Mr. Whiskers dangling from one hand. Every eye in the room locked onto her. The court stenographer's fingers paused above her keyboard. The child advocate, a kind-faced woman named Mrs. Chen, no relation to Robert, smiled encouragingly from her seat near the witness stand. Emma's steps slowed as she took in the formal room, the high ceiling, the American flag, the serious faces watching her. Her grip on Mr. Whiskers tightened. Judge Williams leaned forward, her voice gentle in a way few people had ever heard. "Hello, Emma. My name is Judge Williams. That's a very pretty rabbit you have there. What's his name?" Emma looked up at the judge, her voice small but clear. "Mr. Whiskers." "Mr. Whiskers is a wonderful name. Emma, do you know why you're here today?" To tell about the car crash, Emma replied, her confidence returning slightly. To tell the truth. That's exactly right. And do you promise to tell me the truth today? Yes, Mommy says always tell the truth, even when it's hard. Your mommy is very wise. Judge Williams gestured to the witness stand, which had been modified with a booster seat. Would you like to sit up here so everyone can hear you? Emma nodded and climbed up with help from the bailiff. Her feet dangled several inches above the floor even with the booster. She arranged Mr. Whiskers carefully on her lap, smoothing down his ears. Sarah returned to her seat behind Lisa's table, her fingernails digging into her palms so hard they left marks. Lisa approached the stand slowly, carrying the toy cars and traffic light they'd used during practice. Hi, Emma. Remember me? Hi, Miss Lisa. Emma smiled, recognizing a familiar face. You have the toys. I do. Emma, I'm going to ask you some questions about a day you remember. The day there was a big crash. Can you tell the judge about that day? Emma's face grew serious, her childish voice taking on the careful tone of someone recounting something important. We were in the car. Mommy was driving. I was in my seat with Mr. Whiskers. We stopped at the red light. What happened when you stopped? The light turned green. Green means go. Mommy teached me, so we started to go. Emma picked up the green toy car, moving it forward slowly. We were going into the middle part. The intersection, Lisa supplied gently. The intersection, Emma repeated, testing out the big word. And then I saw the red car. Can you tell me about the red car? Emma's eyes got bigger, remembering. It was coming really, really fast from the side. It was so shiny and big and loud. It made a zoomy sound, R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R. She made the engine noise just as she had during practice. And I knew it was going to hit us because, her voice dropped to a whisper, because it didn't stop for the red light. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Emma, Lisa said carefully, how do you know the red car had a red light? Because we had green, Emma explained with the patient logic of a child. If we had green that way, she pointed, then the red car had red that way. She pointed the opposite direction. That's how traffic lights work. Miss Lisa, you know that. A few people in the gallery actually smiled despite the tension. Emma's matter-of-fact tone was disarming. You're absolutely right, Lisa said. Emma, did you see the person driving the red car? Yes. Can you tell me what he looked like? Emma studied the courtroom until her eyes landed on Thomas Bennett. She pointed with one small finger. That man, with the gray hair, that's the man. Bennett's face remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes, recognition that this child really had seen him. Emma, can you tell the judge what that man was doing when you saw him? Emma took a deep breath, clutching Mr. Whiskers tighter. He was looking at his phone. The courtroom erupted. Robert Chen shot to his feet. Objection, Your Honor, this is preposterous. The child is clearly. Mr. Chen, sit down, Judge Williams commanded sharply. Emma, can you tell me more about the phone? He was holding it in his hands, looking down at the bright screen, Emma said, demonstrating by holding her hands as if holding a phone and tilting her head down. The light from the phone was on his face. It was blue-white light like Daddy's phone. He wasn't watching the road. He was supposed to be watching the road, but he was watching his phone instead. Sarah felt like she couldn't breathe. This was it. This was the moment everything changed. Lisa pressed forward. Emma, are you sure about this? You really saw the man looking at his phone? Yes, Emma said firmly with absolute certainty. I saw it. The phone was right there. She held up her hands again, and his face was like this. She looked down, and he didn't see our car. He didn't see the red light. He just went zoom and then crash. Judge Williams leaned forward. Emma, this is very important. Could you see what was on the phone screen? Emma scrunched up her face, concentrating hard. It had colors like a map, with lines and colors, like when Mommy uses her phone to find places. A GPS, Lisa said softly, more to herself than to the court. The implications washed over everyone present like a tidal wave. If Emma was right, if Thomas Bennett had been using his phone's navigation at the moment of impact, then the phone records would prove it. The data would be there, time-stamped, undeniable. Robert Chen's face had gone pale. And Emma, oblivious to the bombshell she just dropped, swung her feet and asked innocently, "Did I do good? Did I do good?" Emma's innocent question hung in the air as the courtroom exploded into controlled chaos. Judge Williams banged her gavel repeatedly, trying to restore order. Reporters who'd been listening through the closed doors burst in, ignoring the bailiff's attempts to stop them. Camera flashes went off like lightning. Lisa Martinez stood frozen at the stand, her mind racing through the implications. And Sarah couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what had just happened. Her 3-year-old daughter had just accused a millionaire of lying under oath. "Order, I will have order in this courtroom." Judge Williams's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Bailiff, clear these reporters immediately. Anyone who doesn't belong here, out now." As the room slowly quieted, Robert Chen was on his feet, his usual composure shattered. "Your Honor, this is clearly a coached response. The child has been manipulated to." "Mr. Chen, one more word and you'll be held in contempt." Judge Williams's eyes blazed with authority. She turned to Emma, her voice softening instantly. "Emma, sweetheart, you did wonderfully. Can you take a break now? Mrs. Chen will take you to a room with toys and snacks." Emma nodded eagerly, sliding down from the witness stand. "Can Mr. Whiskers have snacks too?" "Mr. Whiskers can have all the snacks he wants," the child advocate assured her, leading Emma out through a side door. The moment Emma left, Judge Williams turned to the remaining attorneys with laser focus. "Ms. Martinez, you just opened a very serious can of worms. Mr. Chen, I'm ordering your client's phone records subpoenaed immediately, and I want that intersection's security footage re-examined." "Your Honor, the footage was already reviewed," Chen began. "Then it will be reviewed again, with specific attention to what the driver of the red Mercedes was doing at the moment of impact." Judge Williams's tone left no room for argument. "We're adjourned until tomorrow morning. I suggest you both use this time wisely." Thomas Bennett finally spoke, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "This is ridiculous. You're taking the word of a toddler over mine. I'm a respected businessman. She's a child who probably still wets the bed." The courtroom went deathly silent. Judge Williams slowly turned her gaze to Bennett, and even from across the room, Sarah could see him shrink slightly under that stare. "Mr. Bennett, you will not speak in my courtroom unless recognized, and you will not disparage a child witness. Is that clear?" Bennett's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Within 2 hours, Detective Maria Gonzalez, who'd originally investigated the accident, was back on the case with renewed urgency. She'd been skeptical about Emma's testimony at first, but the child-specific detail about the phone's map with lines and colors had triggered something. That wasn't the kind of thing a 3-year-old would invent. She arrived at the police station's tech forensics lab with Thomas Bennett's phone records, obtained through emergency court order. The forensic analyst, a young woman named Keisha Brown, pulled up the data on her computer. "Okay, the accident occurred at 3:47 p.m. on October 15th, Keisha said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "Let me see what was happening on Bennett's phone at that exact time." Sarah, Lisa, and Detective Gonzalez crowded around the screen. Keisha's eyes widened. "Oh my God." What is it?" Lisa demanded. At 3:47 p.m., Bennett's phone was actively running Google Maps navigation. The GPS data shows his vehicle moving at approximately 48 miles per hour through the intersection of Maple and Oak. Keisha pulled up more screens. "And look at this. There's a touch input registered at 3:46:58 p.m., 9 seconds before impact. He was actively interacting with the navigation app while driving. Sarah's knees buckled. Lisa caught her arm, steadying her. She was right. Emma was right about everything. Detective Gonzalez was already on her phone. I need the security footage from the intersection of Maple and Oak pulled again. Yes, the same footage from October 15th. But this time, I want it analyzed frame by frame, specifically looking at the driver of the red Mercedes. The next morning, the courtroom reconvened to a media frenzy that had somehow grown even more intense overnight. Toddler's testimony triggers phone record investigation, screamed the headlines. Social media had erupted with Believe Emma trending worldwide. Judge Williams entered, her expression grave. I've reviewed the evidence that came to light yesterday afternoon. Detective Gonzalez, please present your findings. The detective stood, holding a folder that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Your Honor, forensic analysis of Thomas Bennett's phone records confirms that at the time of the accident, his phone was actively running GPS navigation. Touchscreen inputs show he was interacting with the device seconds before impact. The courtroom gasped collectively. Furthermore, Detective Gonzalez continued, pulling out a still image. We re-examined security camera footage from a nearby business, footage that was previously dismissed as too distant to be useful. With digital enhancement, we can clearly see the driver of the red Mercedes with his head tilted downward, hands positioned consistent with holding a mobile device, at the exact moment he entered the intersection. She projected the image onto a screen. There was Thomas Bennett, clear as day, looking down at something in his hands, his face illuminated by what could only be a phone screen. The traffic light in the frame showed red. Sarah burst into tears. Lisa grabbed her hand, squeezing tight. They'd done it. Emma had done it. Robert Chen looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. He turned to his client, and for the first time since the trial began, genuine anger flashed across his face. Bennett had lied to him, to everyone. Judge Williams's voice was ice. Mr. Bennett, I'm going to ask you directly. Were you using your phone at the time of the accident? Bennett's face had gone gray. His hands trembled. The entire weight of his lies was crushing down on him. He looked at his lawyer, at the detective, at the damning evidence on the screen. There was no way out. His voice cracked. I was using the GPS. The directions were confusing and I just glanced down for a second. Just 1 second to see which turn was coming up. I didn't mean to. I didn't see the light change. I didn't see her car. The confession fell like a bomb. So you ran the red light, Judge Williams stated flatly. Bennett's shoulders sagged in defeat. Yes, I ran the red light. Sarah couldn't stop crying, heaving sobs of relief and vindication and rage all mixed together. All of this, the lawsuit, the accusations, the attempt to destroy her life, had been built on lies, and a 3-year-old child had been the only one brave enough to tell the truth. Robert Chen stood slowly, his legendary composure completely shattered. Your Honor, I need to speak with my client privately. I believe we need to discuss withdrawing the lawsuit. I believe you do, Mr. Chen. Judge Williams's voice dripped with contempt. And Mr. Bennett, I'm referring this matter to the prosecutor's office for potential perjury charges. You lied to police. You lied in legal filings. And you attempted to financially destroy an innocent woman to cover up your own negligence. Bennett said nothing, staring at his hands. The same hands that had held the phone, that had caused the crash, that had signed the false lawsuit. Judge Williams turned to Emma's empty chair, then to Sarah. Ms. Richardson, please tell your daughter that she did extraordinary work here. She told the truth when a powerful man tried to bury it. That took remarkable courage. I will, Your Honor. Sarah's voice was thick with emotion. Thank you so much. As the courtroom emptied, Lisa and Sarah embraced in the hallway. Through the windows, they could see the media swarm, ready to broadcast Emma's vindication to the world. The little girl who no one believed had exposed a millionaire's lies with nothing but her honest words. In a small room down the hall, Emma was playing with blocks, completely unaware that she'd just made history. Mrs. Chen watched her with a smile, thinking about how this brave little girl would forever change how the legal system viewed children. "Miss Chen," Emma looked up from her towers, "did everyone believe me now?" "Yes, sweetheart," Mrs. Chen said, her voice catching. "Everyone believes you now." Emma beamed. "Good, I told you I was telling the truth." And she had been, all along. The settlement came 48 hours after Thomas Bennett's confession. Sarah sat in Lisa Martinez's office, reading the agreement with hands that still trembled from disbelief. Bennett's insurance company was offering $350,000, covering all of Sarah's medical expenses, lost wages, pain and suffering, and legal fees. Additionally, Bennett himself was personally paying another $150,000 as a public apology for the emotional distress his false lawsuit had caused. $500,000. For a woman who'd been facing financial annihilation just weeks ago, it felt like a dream. "It's real," Lisa said softly, watching Sarah's face. "You can accept it, Sarah. You won. Emma won." Sarah signed the papers, then broke down crying for the 10th time that day. "I can't believe it's over. I can't believe she did it." "Your daughter is extraordinary," Lisa said, her own eyes misty. "In 20 years of practicing law, I've never seen anything like her." Outside the office, reporters were still camped out, their cameras ready to capture every moment of the story that had captivated America. "Toddler's testimony saves mother from financial ruin," the headlines declared. "3-year-old exposes millionaire's lies." Emma Richardson had become the most famous child in America practically overnight. Thomas Bennett's world collapsed with brutal efficiency. The district attorney filed perjury charges within a week. His company's board of directors, horrified by the scandal, forced him to resign as CEO. His reputation, carefully built over 30 years, was destroyed in 30 seconds of a 3-year-old's testimony. The luxury cars, the expensive suits, the arrogant smirk, none of it could save him from the truth. He pled guilty to perjury, distracted driving, and filing a fraudulent lawsuit. The judge sentenced him to 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, and ordered him to pay $200,000 in additional fines. His driver's license was suspended for 5 years. "You tried to destroy an innocent family to protect your own ego," the sentencing judge told him coldly. "You're fortunate Ms. Richardson is more forgiving than I am." Bennett's attorney, Robert Chen, faced his own reckoning. Though he'd been unaware of his client's lies initially, the legal community questioned his aggressive tactics. Several high-profile clients quietly retained other counsel. Chen would never fully recover from being outmaneuvered by a 3-year-old. For Emma Richardson, life changed in ways she was too young to fully understand. The media wanted interviews, but Sarah firmly refused them all. "My daughter is not a circus act," she told every reporter who called. "She's a little girl who told the truth. That's all." Dr. James Morrison continued monitoring Emma's psychological well-being, conducting follow-up sessions to ensure the court experience hadn't traumatized her. What he found surprised even him. "She's remarkably well-adjusted," he told Sarah during one session. "She doesn't seem to carry any anxiety from the experience. In fact, she seems proud of herself for helping Mommy. Children are more resilient than we give them credit for." Emma had indeed moved on with the swift adaptability of childhood. Within days of the trial's conclusion, she was back to her normal 3-year-old concerns, learning the alphabet, watching her favorite cartoons, and explaining to Mr. Whiskers why he couldn't have ice cream for breakfast. But sometimes, when Sarah tucked her in at night, Emma would say things that revealed a wisdom beyond her years. "Mommy, I'm glad people believe me finally," she said one evening. "It's important to tell the truth, even when grown-ups don't want to listen." Sarah kissed her forehead, her heart full. "You're absolutely right, baby. You're absolutely right." The legal ramifications of Emma's testimony rippled across the entire country. Within 6 months, 5 states had introduced legislation creating new protocols for evaluating young witnesses. The Emma Richardson Standard, as it became known informally, established guidelines for assessing children's testimony based on consistency, detail, and corroboration rather than age alone. Dr. Morrison published a groundbreaking paper in the Journal of Forensic Psychology titled Exceptional Memory in Early Childhood: The Case for Individual Assessment. It became one of the most cited papers in the field, fundamentally changing how psychologists viewed young children's capabilities. Law schools added Emma's case to their curricula, using it to teach students about witness reliability, the evolution of legal standards, and the importance of challenging assumptions. The trial of the toddler became shorthand for cases where unconventional evidence proved crucial. Judge Patricia Williams, in interviews granted years later, called Emma's testimony the most extraordinary thing I witnessed in 30 years on the bench. She kept a photograph on her desk, Emma in her blue dress, clutching Mr. Whiskers, as a reminder that truth could come from the most unexpected sources. "That little girl taught us all a valuable lesson," Judge Williams said. "Age doesn't determine honesty. We almost dismissed her voice entirely because we couldn't imagine a 3-year-old could be reliable. Thank God we listened." 5 years after the trial, Sarah Richardson stood in the driveway of her new home, a modest but comfortable house in a good neighborhood with excellent schools. The settlement money had been carefully invested, ensuring Emma's college education and providing financial security Sarah had never known. Emma, now 8 years old, burst out the front door, her backpack bouncing. "Mom, I got an A on my history test. Can we celebrate with ice cream?" "Absolutely," Sarah laughed, ruffling her daughter's hair. Emma had grown into a bright, confident child with a passion for justice and an uncanny memory that continued to amaze her teachers. She didn't remember much about the trial, it had been when she was so young, but she knew the basic story. Her mother had told her the truth. She'd been brave, she'd told the truth when no one believed her, and she'd saved their lives. "Mom," Emma asked as they walked to the car, "do you think I'll be a lawyer when I grow up, like Miss Lisa?" Sarah smiled, thinking about how far they'd come. "You can be anything you want to be, sweetheart, absolutely anything." That evening, after ice cream and homework and bedtime stories, Sarah stood in Emma's doorway watching her daughter sleep. Mr. Whiskers, now worn and faded but still beloved, was tucked under Emma's arm. Sarah thought about that terrible day in the courtroom, when her 3-year-old daughter had looked a judge in the eye and told the truth that saved them both. She thought about the people who doubted, the system that had almost failed them, and the tiny voice that had changed everything. "Thank you," Sarah whispered to her sleeping daughter. "Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being you." In the end, the case of Richardson v. Bennett had taught America an invaluable lesson. Truth isn't determined by age, status, or power. Sometimes the most important voice in the room belongs to the smallest person. And sometimes, the most powerful testimony comes from the most innocent witness. Emma Richardson had been 3 years old when she took the stand. She'd been fearless. She'd been honest. And she'd been heard. The end.